p.m. on December 10th, 2024, and I call this board workshop meeting of the Edgewood Independent School District School Board to order. I'll start with roll call. Vice President Martha Castilla. President, okay, thank you. Mr. Frank Espinosa is on his way. Mr. Luis Gomez.
Here.
Mr. Rudy Lopez.
Here.
Mr. Michael Valdez.
Present.
Mr. Delgado will be joining us shortly. And I, Dr. James Hernandez, is present. Let the record show that a quorum of the Edgewood Independent School District School Board is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Could everyone please join us for the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Please seat. Dr. Hernandez, are there any public comments?
No, Mr. President, we do not use the same manner for this item. No, Mr. President, we do not have any comments.
Okay, Dr. Hernandez, do you have a report?
I do, Mr. Joey. And then, Ms. Castillo, at the end of my report, can you go over that other side of the camera? So, welcome everybody to tonight's workshop. Just a few logistical things. Tonight's workshop is the workshop that sets us up for the January board meeting. That board meeting is going to be on January 21st. That's the Tuesday after Martin Luther King weekend. So, just to kind of put that on your radar. Again, I do want to thank you for being here and continuing to do the work around providing an exceptional learning experience for all our learners here at EISD. I'm going to start with just a couple of accountability conversations with you with regards to a couple of areas that we've been working on in the school district. I want to thank in advance members of the senior leadership team for being responsible with the work that I'm about to show you. You know, by now I like to show pictures of the work that folks are doing. I do want to thank our Office of School Leadership and our Office of Academic Services for recently conducting campus data review sessions with members of our school district, specifically with principals. At the table were leaders in both departments that I just mentioned, as well as academic coordinators, our deputy superintendent, and then of course other program directors. Of course, this falls in direct alignment with our goal priorities 1 and 2, which are making sure that we at least, in terms of third grade, because there's every grade level, I'm just going to talk about third grade, that we're meeting or exceeding the expectations on STAR, math, and reading. So this is our accountability to you board and to our community, that these conversations are going on and that we're holding our principals accountable about the work that they're doing on their campuses. That was the campus data review. There's also instructional runs. This is not anything new. These are things that are continuously going on. So this was specifically from Roosevelt. That's Martha Castilla, you see on the bottom right, presenting her theory of action that the school is responsible for in terms of the work that they're focusing on. And so what you see here are samples from students. Our work products, those are things that we review to make sure that students are working up to the expectations of their grade level. And again, thank you to the Office of School Leadership, Academic Services, and of course other folks that are walking campuses very frequently, I might say, and visiting with principals and making sure that they're meeting their expectations. For my staff, these graphics are available for you. You know, you can contact Ms. E to get them. So credit to Ms. E, she's going to make some. And then of course, board attendance. You know, we've been talking a lot about attendance. You're going to hear a little bit today during Ms. Martinez's presentation of the actual financial outcome that we're now starting to see with attendance being address and additional students that, quite frankly, we weren't expecting to show on our rolls. And so there is a financial positive for us that we're going to share with you today. And so everything you see there in the green is campuses that are meeting their weekly goal. I want to thank Ms. Masalua, who is the manager of this report, and sends it over to us. Of course, this is in line with the Code 6. And so those are the little awards we sit down and put them on social media to make sure that we're acknowledging to the schools all the work that they're doing. And you see what grading period, what we'd like to be real specific about what we're highlighting. Now, board, here's where you come in. You know, part of ensuring that all graduates are ready for college and career military grading is not just with staff. It is also with you, board, and I appreciate it, and I feel very blessed that you've always been a board that's been very supportive of the work that we're doing. But again, I like to do show and tell. So first and foremost, I want to thank our board members that participated during our recent turkey ticket drive. Mr. Lopez, Mr. Valdez, Dr. Hernandez, and of course, we had other folks that came along. But I do want to thank you for that time that you shared with us. Thank you also to our Chief of Police, Mr. Chief Quiroga and his folks, for you being available to give back to the community. This is the season that obviously most people focus on, but you're giving service all year, as is our staff. So I want to thank you for your participation in that. Also, this is another view there. Of course, you can see the smiling faces, and when they get stopped, they think they're getting shit. And of course, thank you to our officers for supporting that work. Mr. Delgado's not here, but you know me by now. I don't care if the person's here or not. I do believe in the power of naming someone for what they do. I want to thank Mr. Delgado for his volunteer work in our concession stands. No different than Mr. Gomez was doing that too, but equally as important. I want to thank him. He's not here, but I'm going to share this with him for the support that he's been getting, not just now that he's a trustee, but he's been doing this as a parent. He's a parent at two of our schools, at Kennedy and Verada. So thank you to him for the volunteer work he's been doing, because I know he works a lot too. So thank you to Mr. Delgado, as well as Mr. Lopez, and then one of our community members for the recent toy drive and the stuff that the toys that you brought in for our police department. Thank you, Mr. Lopez and Joey, Mr. Cipriano, for the work that they did with bringing that in. And then, of course, here recently, Mr. Gomez on Sunday, volunteering to come in and with many different people, but to help wrap gifts. And so I don't think I've seen Mr. Gomez wrap gifts before, but hey, that's a pretty good snapshot. And so again, these are other ways that you as board members get an opportunity to do what? To follow the district strategic plan of working to improve our two-way communication. What better way to do it than with actions? We can all put up a good game, but your actions are really what people watch. So I want to thank all the trustees who've done dedicated work. This is obviously not all of you. We all dedicate time at different times of the year. So just because you don't see yourself up there doesn't mean we're not watching. And then, of course, with Ms. Castilla and all the work that she's been doing with promotoras and everything. This was at our recent graduation. I want to thank Ms. Castilla for building the front lines of our community health workers. And even though she's not here, she's not in this picture, our former trustee, Stella Camacho, who's also been working with Ms. Castilla, at our practicas and taking qualitative data as they're out there in the schools. And so, again, thank you, Ms. Castilla, for that dedication and the work that you're doing. But again, board, you're helping us do a couple of things. You're helping us make a connection with the staff, with the community that we're serving, and staff. So a lot of our staff lives in the neighborhoods. And this is part of being that, there's that sincerity, right? In earning the trust and respect of the community. They're not going to trust and respect you because you tell them to do it. They're going to trust and respect you because your actions speak to it. And so, again, board, I thank you for doing that. I ask that you continue to provide that support when you can. I realize you guys also have lives and responsibilities, and I know this is a volunteer job. But as always, all seven of you want to thank you for the work that you're providing. Tonight, this is the first phase in making sure that we prepare you as you start to prepare for the January regular board meeting and the items that we are bringing to you for your consideration. This month, you already received a board update last Friday. You'll get one this Friday, the 13th, Friday the 13th. You will not get one on the 20th because that's the last day before break. And of course, the board, remember those next 2 weeks, Edgewood is shut down. And so we hope that you will spend time with your family as well as our staff. And then in January, which is board appreciation, when we've done some things for you guys, you will get a board update starting on the 10th. You'll get another board update on the 17th. And then the board meeting is the 21st. Of course, there is no update the Fridays after a regular board meeting, and then you'll get another one on the 31st. That'll purpose for February, right? Always want to be ahead. And so again, today you're going to hear from our leadership team, their presentation at Mr. Chavez's house. You'll hear specifically from the Office of School Leadership, Mr. McElvain. Principal Gandu, who's sitting here in the audience, is going to be presenting to you today on our disciplinary alternative education program and then some other things. You're also going to hear from our business operations folks, that's Ms. Martinez and her team. And then, as I mentioned earlier, that's our meetings that are upcoming, our January board meeting, February, get ahead, right? That's what's coming, because everybody's been serving on the board for a while. You know the spring flies by too. Before you know it, it's June, it's graduation, you're all sitting on the stage and sweating with the rest of us. And Mr. McElvain's running around with that little thing in his ear, making sure we're all where we're supposed to be. And so, again, that brings my report to an end, board. But this will be your board update. Again, thank you for the work that you're doing. I believe there is one report that was left out. The LSG report. You're also going to hear from Mr. Chavez on the Lone Star government. So, okay, all right. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. C.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to hear a presentation from Office of School Leadership and EADP. So, please kindly to our stations. You've heard in the past presentations from our high schools and from our other middle school campuses. Here, as a respite for our board workshop in December, we're going to look at the statistics and outcomes that we've had in our DADP. So this is a good opportunity for us to see how things are going in that particular location. Dr. Matthews.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chavez. To Board President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Hernandez, Superintendent, as well as other stakeholders that are here in the room. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak with you this evening. Before we delve into the presentation, I'd just like to give everyone an opportunity to review our goals and our Board of Trustees operating norms to reflect our shared commitment to ensuring success of every student in the district, and that we continue to maintain a culture of transparency, as well as holding one another accountable and building trust with our stakeholders. As we engage in the presentation, the goal is to ensure that our conversations remain focused on student outcomes, equity, and continuous improvement. These questions from LSG are provided to clarify understanding, to identify trends and gaps, to keep us focused on solutions, and to stay aligned with our board superintendent goals. Using these questions thoughtfully ensures that we remain strategic in our oversight role, fostering transparency and collaboration as we work toward improving student outcomes for all students. We will engage in questions at the end of the presentation, so please feel free. I believe you have a copy of the presentation to jot down any notes that you may have. We've already reviewed our #1 outcome, which is to graduate all scholars, college, career, military ready per their expected date of graduation. Another familiar document is our North Star goal that guides our work, in which the number of STAR accountable campuses rated A or B will increase from 4 campuses in 2022 to 14 by June of 2028. That continues to guide our work and give us purpose. Our goal is to share this evening critical work being done across the district to enhance student success, strengthen school culture, and ensure that all students are supported both academically and socially. So if you'll take a few minutes to read the learning outcomes for this evening. This slide outlines some of the key terms and acronyms that you'll hear during our presentation that will be central to the initiatives and data that we'll discuss today. You'll take us about 30 seconds to review those terms. All of these frameworks are vital to understanding the strategies that we're implementing across the district, and that we'll be sharing with you today. As we start our presentation, the Texas Principal Standards provide a clear direction for leadership and student success. There are 5 standards that our principals are accountable to. The first one being instructional leadership, human capital, executive leadership, culture, and strategic operations. For tonight's presentation, we'll be focusing on Standard 4, culture. This standard emphasizes the importance of creating an environment where all students, staff, and families feel valued and supported. A strong culture is built on 5 pillars, and you'll see them in the center of that graphic. And that is to establish a shared vision, to create a culture of high expectations, to establish intentional family and community engagement, to provide a safe environment, and to have effective discipline practices. One of the critical aspects of fostering a safe environment is ensuring that we prioritize the well-being and security of our students and staff. This brings us to the item that's circled in red, the Safe and Supported School Program, SSSP, required by the Texas Education Agency, which is a comprehensive initiative designed to enhance safety and support systems on campuses across the state. The next slide will combine how we look at the SSSP and what happens on our campuses as it aligns to Standard 4 and how we support schools. The Safe and Supported School Program is a comprehensive and integrated approach aimed at ensuring the well-being, effective learning, and physical and psychological safety of every member of our school community. This program is built on 3 pillars, where we look at positive school climate, where we implement PBIS strategies, target training, and incentive programs. We create an environment where students and staff feel safe, valued, and motivated. Then we have our MTSS approach, which focuses on the whole child and fosters collaboration among educators to provide tiered interventions that address both academic and social and emotional needs. Intentional family and community engagement through initiatives like our Platicas, our Coffee with the Principals, various parent meetings. We strengthen relationship and partnership that supports student success. If you look to the left of the slide, you'll see in looking at the whole child, we look at various data points to guide and develop our work. So we look at grades, teacher and student attendance, discipline referrals, parent contact, parent community engagement activities, instructional walks, campus visits, and teacher retention. And this is not an exhaustive list because they're all different data points that we look at in order to develop this safe and supported school program. And so as we move forward, Dr. Butler is going to come forward and she is going to talk specifically about what that looks like in our day-to-day practice at the campus level.
Good evening. Our whole child philosophy seeks to align all district initiatives and resources to address the needs of all students. We're working together to ensure that students, teachers, and families receive the support needed for student success. We introduced this philosophy this past summer at our new Teacher Academy, and will continue to work together as a committed team to create systems of support that will ultimately lead to improved student performance. The reading of our campus culture initiatives are PBIS, SEL, and counseling services, and progressive discipline. PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Intervention Support, and I'll share more information on the next few slides. SEL stands for Social Emotional Learning, that helps students manage emotions and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. This work is primarily led by our counselors. Campus level work is done in the classroom and school-wide. We also work to support our families and other caregivers, along with partnerships with community organizations. PBIS is a nationwide program that is a research-based framework for supporting students in schools with their behavior, social, and mental health needs. It creates a positive and predictable learning environment that is safe for all students. We launched our refresh of PBIS this past summer at all campuses. Our PBIS district level team of coaches is led by Mr. Roland Esperqueta. These coaches work with campus PBIS teams to ensure fidelity of implementation. Campus teams include the campus administration, the principal, the counselor, and teachers. One of the tenets of PBIS is creating school-wide structures that ensure the supervision of students. The work we've done with Relay to create minute-by-minute plans to designate supervision and support for students fulfills that requirement. On this slide, there's an example from a campus. This is from HBG, their campus-level PBIS efforts. Team HBG meets on a regular basis monthly with their district PBIS coach, Mr. Ernest Lopez. He also provides support for their teachers and students at the campus on a regular basis. HBG has a designated administrator who monitors the implementation of PBIS along with teachers and staff. The school has clear expectations for student behavior and have decreased the number of disciplinary incidents this school year. Our OSL priorities align to EISD Goal 6, Organizational Improvement Excellence. So our goals are to track the percentage of campuses implementing PBIS with fidelity, along with the reduction of office referrals, suspensions, and expulsions, as compared to the previous school year. Additionally, we will promote positive behavior recognition that are expected to increase student engagement and attendance rates. So the OSL team strives to provide a framework of support for all campuses. The highlights are that we have implemented PBIS refresh this school year using our PBIS coaches, and there's collaboration between OSL and the academics department. Risks and barriers. Risks are that campus incentives cost money, and so it requires budgetary considerations. And any newly launched initiative requires constant monitoring and support. So our key initiatives are that PBIS refresh at 100% of our campuses, and that is on track. PBIS coaches are assigned to each campus. We have 5 coaches, and all campuses receive support from the district. We have a partnership with Region 20 for PBIS support for campus teams, and we are to attend 5 trainings. We've attended 3 so far this year. And lastly, our Relay minute-by-minute or our principal playbook plans are developed at each campus, and at this time, 100% of our campuses have a plan in place. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. McElvain.
All right, well, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Butler. Good evening, Board President Dr. Hernandez, board members, Superintendent Dr. Hernandez, staff and community. Board, our apologies, we had copies ready for this presentation and they didn't make it here, but they are being made now for you. And so you will get copies of the presentation shortly. So thank you for bearing with us. Dr. Butler shared information with you concerning 3 of the district-wide initiatives that our campuses are utilizing that are having a positive impact on school culture. And in the next couple of slides, I'm going to share the data that speaks to the effectiveness of these efforts. When campuses establish safe and supportive schools, students are more inclined to attend school and demonstrate behaviors that promote a safe and healthy learning environment. So in the next couple of slides, I want to highlight attendance and discipline data that we believe demonstrate the measurable impact of our efforts to enhance and improve campus culture across the district. Dr. Hernandez, Superintendent Dr. Hernandez has made it exceedingly clear that one of our primary non-negotiables this year is around improving attendance at the campuses. And the 3 initiatives that have been shared with you so far this evening are part of that larger effort to improve student attendance and at the end of the day, improve our student performance. When campuses establish positive and safe learning environments, kids, essentially they want to come to school. And so current data indicates that the coordinated efforts between district support staff and campus teams are having a positive effect on student daily attendance rates. Attendance is such an important variable in the academic success of our students, and we examine and report on attendance every single day, tracking campus attendance rates against weekly and 6 weeks goals. Campuses who meet their attendance goals, this was referenced earlier by Dr. Hernandez, campuses who meet their attendance goals each grading period receive special recognition. And so they are constantly incentivizing student attendance and doing a variety of parental and family outreach initiatives to increase student attendance at the campus level. The results of these efforts are paying off. Our average student attendance for the district is currently almost 3% higher over last year's end-of-year daily attendance average, which is a huge celebration and is really in large part indicative of the positive learning environments that our campus teams are establishing and the tight coordination of support between our district and campus teams. The second data point that helps us measure the impact of our school culture is overall discipline data. As this chart demonstrates, and I'll give you a second to kind of look at it and understand it. As this chart demonstrates, our discipline referrals and placements have seen significant decline from last year to this year. Students are spending less time in-school suspension and in out-of-school suspension, and the number of disciplinary referrals at all levels have dropped. We've seen a 45% decrease in the number of days that students are suspended or placed in in-school suspension at our middle schools from last year compared to this year, and a 52% decrease at our high schools. This data gives us strong indication that the emphasis and training the district has invested in PBIS, social emotional learning supports, and progressive disciplines are in fact paying dividends. And so the chart shows the three categories: elementary, middle, and high, and then the discipline trends from 2023-2024 school year compared to this time, 2024-2025. All of this data represents data through the second 6 weeks of school, and then we'll have the third 6 weeks data available at the close of semester one. In EISD, parents and families are our partners in the education of our students. As a parent and an employee myself, I know the unique partnership that exists with schools and our parents. And we want to continuously build bridges of collaboration and support with our families. And when concerns or issues arise, we want our parents to know exactly how to resolve those challenges in the most constructive and collaborative way possible. As a result, we've developed a clear communication pathway for parents who need help resolving any concerns. We encourage parents to take the following steps when they have a concern about their child's academic, social, or behavioral progress. Oftentimes, defining the problem by gathering as many facts as possible and then researching potential solutions gives parents critical information that can help alleviate issues that arise. We also encourage parents to reach out directly to a teacher or a staff member to resolve concerns. We found that 95% of parent concerns are resolved simply through a conversation with our campus staff. However, if concerns can't be resolved directly between parents and the teacher or parents and the staff member, then we encourage parents to reach out directly to the campus administrator, typically the principal, if not an assistant principal, for help. After speaking with the school administrator, if a parent still has concerns, the Office of School Leadership steps in to help resolve the issue. Ultimately, if all of our informal mediation processes still don't resolve the central issue, parents may go through a more formal complaint process that's outlined in Board Policy FNG Local. And at the end of the day, our goal is to work collaboratively with parents and families in support of our students, and our students remain the top priority so that we all work hard to mitigate parental concerns in whatever way is necessary.
The board, I did ask Mr. Gregory to allow me to make a couple of comments. I asked that the team share this with you because here recently, and I'm sure you've seen, or we kept up to date on communication through the different channels of communication that we use. We have seen an inordinate amount of parents that want to directly come straight into my office. Now, I want to be real transparent about this conversation. I usually will return to, first question out of my mouth most of the time is going to be, tell me what the principal said when you talked to them. If the parent is coming directly to me, the response I typically will get is, I haven't talked to them. I will send them right back down to follow the process. Why do we do that? Because otherwise, if they come directly to the superintendent's office, I don't have all the details. I'm not on campuses every day. I don't have enough context for me to be involved in any type of comment, suggestion, considered a unilateral decision. Whereas by now, board members, most people, we've worked together for many years, and for those of you that are coming on the board, I will always go to a subject matter specialist. You will hear me say that. If it's about a parent complaint, if it's a finance question, if it's an operations question, if it's an academics question, I know where my strengths lie, but even I may have a strength in something, I still go to my subject matter specialist. And I will ask them to give me facts, advice, and next steps. And so we wanted to share this with you because I've asked all principals to have a welcome back to the second semester meeting with their communities about everything from arrival time, dismissal time, if you're in elementary, picking up kids at lunch, field trip requirements, every type of things that we normally talk to parents about at the beginning of the year. I'm asking you to revisit those things again, including with your front office. What are your expectations as a principal if a parent shows up in terms of how we treat them, how we collect information? Those are always important. So again, FNG logo is really important. I know there are some, they're very minor, but sometimes we will get an email. Board, you've been excellent about a parent approaches you, you send them right back to the superintendent's office, to Amelia, and then we send them on down to the school. In fact, one of our new trustees already had that come up his first few days on the board. Very good about, ma'am, that's not in my purview. I'm going to send it on to the superintendent's office, and then he must go on to the campus. So,
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. There are instances when student behavior falls outside of what campuses are able to address, whether because of the legal nature of an infraction or because behaviors are so persistent that campus interventions are ultimately unsuccessful. It's in these cases that the district's Disciplinary Alternative Education Program, or DAEP, provides a structured learning environment intended to build a student's awareness and self-management skills. Over the next few minutes, we're going to discuss the district's DAEP program, enrollment data, and special programs that support student learning and behavior management so that all of our students are supported in our #1 outcome to graduate all scholars, college, career, or military grade for their expected date of graduation. So if you did not know, our district has 2 DAEP programs for elementary age students. The DAEP program is located at Roosevelt Dual Language Academy. The program is staffed with a certified teacher and who implements grade level instruction and who is supported by Roosevelt's principal and assistant principal. The number of elementary DAEP placements is very low year to year. This year, in fact, only 3 instances have occurred that have caused an elementary student to be placed in the DAEP at Roosevelt. So the majority of the remainder of the presentation will be focused on our secondary DAEP, which is more highly utilized based on the types of offenses that occur that require a DAEP placement, which you'll learn more about here in a minute. The program, our secondary DAEP program, is housed at the Fine Arts Academy complex in a separate building and is staffed with 5 certified teachers and a campus principal, Ms. Sandra Cantu, who will be sharing information with you this evening regarding the program. So without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce to you Ms. Sandra Cantu, who is the proud principal of Edgewood ISD's Disciplinary and Alternative Education Program. She will share important information about how her program supports student learning and helps our scholars get on track or get back on track, depending on the circumstance, with their academic, social, and behavioral progress so that they can fulfill their educational goals. Ms. Cantu.
Thank you, Mr. McLean, and good evening, School Board President Dr. Hernandez, school board members and trustees, Superintendent Dr. Hernandez, Office of School Leadership, directors, and community members. It is my pleasure to be with you here this evening to share DAEP's board presentation. In front of you, you will see the key terms and acronyms that will be important and helpful to know for the enrollment trends and DAEP overview. Please take 20 seconds to review the key terms. Prior to reviewing the enrollment trends, I would like to take a moment to review what DAEP is, the current instructional program that we offer, and the faculty and staff that serve our DAEP students.
So DAP is a disciplinary alternative education program, and it is intended to serve as an alternate school setting for those that violate the student code of conduct. The Texas Education Code clearly outlines in Chapter 37 mandatory offenses in which students would need an alternate placement. This is adopted by local board policy. Our secondary DAP here in Edgewood serves 6th through 12th graders who have a mandatory or a discretionary offense in some cases. The current instructional program that we offer at DAP is in direct alignment with the guaranteed and viable curriculum that is set forth in all of Edgewood ISD schools. Our DAP scholars receive the same high-quality instructional materials that they would receive at their Edgewood home campus. Instruction occurs in all 4 content areas. And at DAP, we are fully ready to serve and support all students who meet eligibility criteria for special programs to ensure continuity of services. The faculty and staff at DAP include 4 core content area teachers whom are fully certified, 1 special education teacher, 1 special education paraprofessional, and we do share 2 staff members, 1 PE coach, and a high school course credit teacher for 2 periods a day. I am proud to report that 100% of staff were retained from the 23-24 school year to this school year. If we look at a 3-year enrollment trend, you'll see that in 22-23 school year, we had 189 students. Taking a look at the 23-24 school year, you'll see a significant increase of 314 students. That number is directly attributed to new legislation that was brought forth in September of 2023 with House Bill 114. In this House bill and new legislation, vaping became a mandatory offense and placement at DAP. This increase at DAP is not limited to Edgewood ISD, as all DAPs across all districts in the state of Texas all saw a significant increase in enrollment. If I may direct your attention to the blue bar graph that you see right there on the 24-25 school year, that total enrollment number represents year to date. So August through December, we have had a total of 96 students. If we consider at this time last year where we are about 61 under where we were this time last year. And if we compare it to the 23-24 school year, we're less than 1/3 of total enrollment. And so if we continue in this same trajectory for semester 2 as we have accomplished in semester 1, we should be hitting around the 192 or 200 mark, which would be about 122 students less. I think it's very important to note and acknowledge the great work that the Office of School Leadership, Dr. Butler, and the PBIS team, campus leadership teams, have done a tremendous job in implementing the positive behavioral interventions and support that they just spoke about. This is a direct impact of the work that is happening on campuses. If we look at enrollment trends by gender, you will see that males are placed at DAP at a much higher rate. Currently, males year to date comprise 61% of total placements at DAP. Year-to-date placements by grade level, you will see that 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students attend DAP at a much higher rate than any other grade level. Placements tend to decrease as students reach 11th and 12th grade. Noting the difference between middle school and high school, middle school attends at a slightly higher rate. When we take a look at placements by offense, you will see that the #1 offense in Edgewood ISD is currently vaping. 59 of the 96 total offenses were vaping. All other mandatory offenses equal to 37 or 38.5%. The discretionary numbers are insignificant at a total of 8, which is less than 1% of total placements in an Edgewood DAP. Please take a moment to review the key terms and acronyms for DAP's first priority. So DAP's first priority is academic achievement. Our highest leverage action step is to ensure that students are receiving high school course credits, and this is in direct alignment with our district's #1 outcome, which is to prepare students to graduate college, career, and military ready as per their expected graduation date. You will see that in the 23-24 school year, we had 66 courses completed and credited to student transcripts. Our goal for the 24-25 school year is to increase that number at 80. You will see that we have key initiatives to ensure that we're pacing ourselves about 3 students each week completing a course. If we do that for the next 20 weeks remaining in the school year, we will exceed our goal. I want you to also note that we are tracking and verifying transcripts to ensure data validity. And it is very important to us that all of our DAP scholars receive the same opportunities that any other Edgewood scholar receives. And you will see highlighted in the circle, red circle there, that we would like all of our students to have the CATE opportunities, early college, high school, and P-TECH opportunities that their peers receive at their home campus. And I would like to thank Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Lupe, Ms. Salinas, that ensured that all of our DAP scholars attended the CATE extravaganza, that they came to our campus to hold parent meetings to ensure that they have the same information that other parents received, and they came and personalized a student recruitment session for our 8th graders. So a 3-year trend on the high school course credits initiative. You will see that we did not have any completed at DAP in 22-23, and so increase of 66. We're currently in the blue at 24-25, 65% of the way of where we were last year, and have completed 43 year to date. Our goal, as we just mentioned, was 24-25 at 80. We are currently at 54%. DAP is on track to meet this goal. I want to take a moment to highlight the great staff that we have here at DAP. In the upper right, you'll see Coach Lopez. He is our high school course credit teacher, and there you see him with Mikey. Students are very, very excited at DAP when they finish a high school course, knowing that they're getting back on track, that when they go back, they have nothing else to make up. And we celebrate this momentous occasion. We inflate them and make them feel like this is a great achievement by ringing the bell 3 times. As the recitation of the poem there on the left is read aloud, and you will hear all the way down the hallway of other students cheering on for their peer. Here you will see the CATE and early college, high school, and P-TECH opportunities that DAP got to participate in. You'll see that Mr. Lupe is happily showing them a cosmetology, and that was a big hit with our students for cosmetology and welding. You'll see that Mr. Rodriguez doing an information session with our 8th graders, and then we had a pretty good turnout with our parent meeting for the information session on early college, high school, and P-TECH. Next, we will take a look at DAP's second priority. Please take a moment to review the key terms and acronyms for the next 20 seconds. DAP's second priority is to strengthen school culture. And how we plan to do that is also by improving attendance. Our goal is to increase average daily attendance from 87.3 to 97% by May of 2025. Some things that we would like to highlight is that we've seen considerable improvements from year to year. The most recent data shows that in the first and third 6 weeks, we are on target and met the goal. Second weeks had a little dip, but it is still an increase from where we were last year. We will continue to ensure that we have targeted supports for students with chronic truancy and working with juvenile probation and educating parents about medical appointments and returning back on the same day. We are also actively seeking to get via bus transportation passes for our DAP students. One thing that I want to highlight is the positive behavior and intervention and supports outside of like the mechanical and data validation of average daily attendance. We want to make school exciting, a place of belonging, and a place where students want to come in the morning. So we are steadily providing incentives for students to come to school. On the 3-year DAP trend, you'll see from the 22-23 school year to the 23-24 school year, we had a 4% increase. If you look at the navy blue bar on the graph, 24 to 25, DAP has had a 9.4% increase. And on the right in green, 24-25, our current goal is 97%. DAP is only currently 0.4% off from reaching this goal. So pray for us that we maintain it throughout the next few weeks in the winter months. So some of the positive behavioral and interventions and supports is asking all of our DAP scholars to have a perfect attendance. They get to submit their names in a raffle box for every 3-week period. We have introduced Monday is usually a low attendance day. Cornhole Mondays that you see there on the bottom left. Students are excited to get outside in nature, and ooh, they are very competitive about that cornhole. You will see on the right that we get them excited about pickle kits, hot Cheeto Tuesday, etc. In the upper right, you will see Leah. Leah is a student that did not have the greatest of attendance, but after 5 home visits, seeing what she needed, getting her a VIA bus pass because she's taking 3 buses from Prowlis to get there, she had the most improved attendance. And you will see we happily, all of us at DAP, donated a pair of Air Force Ones, which in the middle school environment is the top-notch zapatos. On the upper left, you'll see Jose. Jose is a student that walked to school every day, and so based upon some of his social assets and needs, his raffle prize was a bicycle to ensure that he can get to where he needed to be. So we're ensuring that we're providing for their needs and at the same time motivating for them to come to school. Let's take a look at the key terms and acronyms for DAP's 3rd priority for the next 20 seconds. DAP's priority 3 is student and family engagement. In a place where you wouldn't suspect that there was a strong sense of belonging or a community at all, we are striving very hard to ensure that that is not the case. When we were asked to create a district strategic plan, campus strategic plan, we looked at what can we do differently. And so we made an intentional initiative to create drivers, metrics, to hold ourselves accountable for getting the parent voice and the student voice. So 90% of students and families reporting that they feel connected, have what they need, and also via a student exit interview. You will see that although only 50% of parents returned some of the parent engagement, 95% reported that campus communication was okay, enrollment process was clear, and we had 3 parent events this first semester. Parent portal, we are actively signing parents up during orientation and familiarizing students with the parent portal. Do they end their student portal? Do you know how to look up your graduation plan? Do you know how many math credits you need? And so we are actively seeking their involvement in that. Some of the other ways in which we are doing that is in our DAP transition completion reports. Students have a voice in letting us know what they need. They can tell us what was already happening while at their home campus, what is going to worry you when you return back to campus, who's one person that you can trust on your campus, and what is it that you need to be successful. That's in their own voice, that goes straight to parents, that goes straight to the home campuses. And hopefully the PBIS and the MTSS teams are reviewing that and setting up a transition plan to help ensure that student success upon their return. We are also providing incentives for parents to attend the great program series that Mr. Garnica and his team are doing at the parent universities. If parents and students or members of their family attend, we're giving incentives. And then, of course, actively doing parent portal, as I mentioned earlier. Here is a quick glance at the DAP transition report. It is a comprehensive report that discusses observed behaviors, the current support services, social assets and needs, attendance, grades, behavior management, attention and diversion themes that they've used, and how were they able to do regulation and coping at DAP. Next, you will see key terms for DAP's 4th initiative. Please take 20 seconds to review the terms. DAP's 4th priority is student support services. We are pleased to state that 100% of DAP students are receiving support from RISE Recovery. They also participate in Sakala educational programs in the 2nd semester and then receive the transition completion report as further support, as I just mentioned. One thing that I wanted to point out on the most recent data is that students have the option and can provide consent for their counselors to continue services as they return back to their home campus. 61% of our students are electing to continue services. So this is monumental in their show of making a change for the positive. Some of the things that were highlighted on that last slide, but here in pictures, is the great and many opportunities that RISE Recovery and Sakala provide our scholars, even outside of school, to experience social settings and fellowship and positive interactions with adults. At DAP, we have been very intentional about creating library spaces and calm down spaces to ensure that if students needed a place to self-regulate and to cope, that they had a place to do it. Our acknowledgement systems and celebration rituals go hand in hand with our relay minute-by-minute plans, routines, procedures, and our positive behavioral interventions and supports. You will see on the upper right, Mr. Olivares doing a unique handshake with the scholars. All of our teachers have a unique greeting with all of our students. We ensure that the students see their name in print, hear their name at least 7 times a day, so we can acknowledge them as a human being. Here we see some happy DAP boys, and their names are clearly marked on the stockings behind them. So we find different ways to integrate that for student support. We intentionally built in community outreach into our student support to develop empathy and to have students belong to something, a community, and a group. We do have students doing Blankets for Hope, in which Ms. De La Cruz in the upper left received a grant for. And last year, they were able to complete the blankets for 2 police officers that had a tragic accident. On the bottom right, they are creating blankets for the Teenage Parent Program. In addition to that, we are having blankets being made for the senior living on couples. In the upper right, you'll see our students were challenged for the November Homelessness Awareness Program, and DAP came in strong, even for a small campus, with 73 canned food items and non-perishables. You can see their pride beaming, and we whooped it up as a great way to contribute to their own community. Much like Dr. Hernandez as a leader of the pack for professionalism, accountability, and communication, DAP has a leader of the pack, and that is for the 3 Ds of success at DAP. That is desire, discipline, and dedication. We provide students opportunities to lead, whether that's in the morning cadence, whether that's leading them in cleanup for lunch. We provide them opportunities to lead, acknowledge their efforts, and commemorate it with a certificate home and a personal phone message to their parents. And the pride that students and parents both feel of their student being selected as a leader of the pack greatly improves their confidence moving forward. And lastly, the belonging and communication is very intentional. It is not very common that you see older secondary children having family-style meals at school, conversing with one another. Most of the times they're caught up in communication. So we have intentionally, from time to time, set up family-style meals in which students can converse with their peers, their teachers, and just engage in fellowship. And at DAP, we hope that that's what they take home, back to home campus with them, that they are enough, ready to learn, and ready to live their best life. Thank you for your time this evening, and if you do have any questions, I will be happy to answer them at this time.
Board members, do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you. If there are no questions, we want to say thank you very much. We're super proud of the work and the leadership that Ms. Cantu exhibits at DAP. What she shared with you is a direct reflection of her vision and her commitment and her leadership at that campus. And very little, if any of it, was anything that was directed to her to do, but she's really built a program that supports the whole child. And in Edgewood, none of our children are discarded. Even if they have challenges with behavior at a home campus, they're still invested in, and it's great to have leaders like Ms. Cantu who make that investment every day. So thank you for the time this evening, board. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez.
Board members, there is one slide, I'm sorry, that we are going to include. It does have the contact information for all 3 individuals here, as well as that, we naturally call the problem-solving process for parents. It'll be updated for your department for prior to the board. So thank you. Ms. Campbell, excellent job. Anybody needs to run to the restroom, again, this is probably a good time when it sets up.
Are we ready, Dr. Nash?
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, and. I'm gonna need to update that parent resolving. Yeah, I need to update that because I'm still checking later on. Okay. Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah, send it over.
Okay.
All right, what should I do? Look at this card. Turn it off.
Yes.
All right.
They're gonna go back to it.
Good evening, President of the Board, officers, board members, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, colleagues. This is really a challenge coming after a presentation like that. I tell you, a lot of good work happening at campus. Thank you, Lowell itself, Office of School Leadership, and thank you, EISD, Crystal Conference. Our leadership presentation for today, you're going to have a little Christmas fair behind it. Of course, we know all of our goals and priorities for the board, and of course the operating governance, which were mentioned previously by Dr. Mack in the previous slide. For our intended learning outcomes today, we're going to look at our LSD monthly monitoring report. This will be study session 4B. Of course, these are the priorities that we address. I'm going to go into a little bit more depth since we have some new members onboarding for LSD. Then we're going to talk about Bluebonnet learning for mathematics K through 5. That's work session 5A. And we're going to end the leadership presentation with a presentation on timely school software, work session 5B, offered by Dr. Mack and OSL Group. So without further ado, our Lone Star Governance Monthly Reporting. What we're going to look at today is House Bill 3, Texas School Financing 86th Legislative Session, and what that meant in terms of this LSD presentation. EISD Lone Star Governance and District Strategic Goals 1, 2, and 3. They're the same. Board Policy AE Local, which was adopted back in 2018 by the board, that set up our systems of grade school, as well as also providing us all the information that we need for our Lone Star Governance goals. We're also going to talk about how the Board Policy AE Local provided for Lone Star Governance monthly monitoring planning, as well as provide the emphasis for the board self-evaluation, which occurs quarterly. We will then go on to this month's items, which would be our constraint progress measures. 1.1, Edgewood ISD North Star goal. Constraint progress measure 2.1, professional learning, and constrained progress measure 3.1, teacher turnover, which are also outlined in policy AE local. So, as we mentioned, House Bill 3, Texas School Finance, the 86th legislature, set up the requirement that we have early literacy and mathematics proficiency, requiring us to look at grades K through 3 for our board goals, that the board has to outline these particular processes. And hence, we had our Edgewood District strategic goals, 1, 2, and 3, actually, and these are both English and Spanish, that address 1, reading, K through 3, that address mathematics, K through 3, and that addresses college career and military readiness. So those particular pieces formulate, 2 of them do, formulate HB3, as well as our Lone Star governance goals, which address those 3 areas: reading, mathematics, and college and career readiness. I wanted to point this out because I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, including our new members of the board, that these particular pieces, when we talk about the district strategic plan goals, that goal 1, 2, and 3 correlate and directly impacted are the same as the Lone Star governance goals 1, 2, and 3. And all of this is set forth in board policy AE local. There you have the board student outcome goals for the superintendent. And those are the same 3 goals that we just mentioned. Goal 1, goal 2, and goal 3. And they're set in policy, as well as the board's constraints for the superintendent. And I'm going to read this because this is tonight's presentation. While in pursuit of the board student outcome goals above, the superintendent shall not allow 1, adult convenience or preference to take priority over the academic progress of students. 2, student outcome goal oriented professional learning to decrease. Or 3, percentage of teachers leaving the district to increase. And so these 3 areas are all set in board policy AE local. In addition to board policy AE local, there's also the board's role. But I want to point out number 2. And number 2 says, measure and communicate how well the mission vision is being accomplished. The board shall accomplish this by collectively ensuring accountability through monthly monitoring of district performance to ensure progress toward the vision and values and regular communications to the community. This being done at board meetings. You can see to the right the Lone Star Governance monthly monitoring calendar for 24-25, which was adopted in August of this year. And it outlines what we're going to be covering every month. And right now, you can see board workshop December 10th. We have constrained progress measure 1.1 and 3.1, which are those that I just mentioned that was outlined in board policy. Okay, so the Lone Star Governance purpose is to improve student outcomes. Everyone, most of you have been to a training, and some of you who are new will go to the LSG training that looks at improving student outcomes through vision and goals, through systems and processes, programs and accountability, advocacy and engagement, and synergy and teamwork. These particular components are outlined in, yet again, board policy AE local, for the board self-evaluation, where the board self-evaluation shall conduct the form evaluation quarterly. And this is our last quarterly progress tracker, quarter 31. I think that number gives you an idea of how many years we have been pursuing the Lone Star Governance goals. Quarter 31, which was in September 30th of 2024, and has all these particular areas. And notice where we're at. We're at 92%. Benny's happening? Oh, there you go. All right. So kudos to the board up to September. Our next one's going to be in January. So this brings us today. We're going to see those 3 constrained progress measures, 1, 2, and 3.1. So let's look at this one. The superintendent should not allow academic adult convenience. This is our North Star goal, right? Our North Star goal is based on the number of campuses that will be rated a B or A by 2028, June 2028. Unfortunately, as you can see down here in the bottom graphic, for the last couple of years, we have not had any accountability reports from TDA due to, as you all know, an injunction put onto us for not being able to release those pieces, and the rating still remaining pending. So we're unable to report this out to on this particular. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, this is not just Edgewood. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez, for pointing that out. This is across the state where there is no accountability ratings. As a matter of fact, this particular graphic that I have here, I'm talking about 2024 accountability system, comes directly from the TDA website. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So not allow goal-oriented professional learning to decrease. So you see that number. Whoa, okay. So our number here is the superintendent should not allow student output goal-oriented professional learning to decrease below 60%. So you have, again, you see how we present this. We have a baseline in 2023, which was taken. Then we have end of the year for 22-23 with an 80%. End of year for 23-24. And currently in December, we're sitting right at 60. And we use the ED4 documents or the ED4 platform to calculate how many sessions we have, and of those sessions, how many of them are related to the LSG goals, the Lone Star Governance goals, which includes reading, mathematics, and college and career readiness. So some other interesting data that I wanted to share with you, that of the 1,459 participants who attended over 200 professional development opportunities offered by the district. Now, how many teachers do we have? You say, Mr. Chops, we don't have that many teachers. We have 502 teachers to be exact, but there are multiple times that they attend professional development for a total of 1,459, and 200 professional development opportunities. We provide, academics this year provides 3 questions to every participant for every session. And the presenter delivered the content in a clear and concise manner. Strongly agree to strongly disagree to strongly agree. Information presented is relevant to my current job. I'm likely to implement the information presented in this session. Across the board, those 1,459 sessions or instances, they rated at 4.8. Remember, it's a scale of 1 to 5. So great feedback. I wanted to share that with you. We'll be sharing that with you. Thanks to our academics department diligently utilizing this particular process through forms. Next, the superintendent should not allow the percentage of teams leaving the district to increase. Constrained progress measure 3.1. So if we look at this, we should decrease from 23.7 to 18.7 by the end of school year 2028. And as you can see, the baseline here was at 23.7, hence the number that we have in our constrained progress measure. The end of school year 22-23 brought us at 28%. Our goal was at 22.9. In the end of 23-24, we were sitting at 19%. The goal was to be below 22%. So last year, our teacher turnover rate was met the goal, below 22%. This year, we sit at 2%, and we need to make sure that we fall between the goal, which is below 21.2%. I want to also state, this time 11 months ago, November of 2023, we were sitting at 3%. So kudos to all the staff members out there working diligently to retain teachers. Thank you to our Human Resources Department, and we're going to share some of the things that they're doing to make sure that we keep this at this rate. And of course, eventually we'll go down to 19. Notice that our final goal is 18.7. Last year we were at 19%. Going at this rate, we're very confident. Never know, right? So, superintendent's evaluation. From these 2 particular items that we presented, we feel that this is a model, and reinforcements to practice support teacher learning and maintain goal-focused professional learning throughout the remainder of the 24-25 school year. Coordinators maintain all trainings as they have been. Instructional coordinators maintain the trainings as they have been. Continue monitoring teacher learning practices and gathering teacher feedback on all professional development services as we did this first semester. Reinforce the following teacher recruitment and retainment incentives. Expand the teacher incentive allotment to include student learning objectives for career and technical education teachers, fine arts teachers, social studies, and special education teachers. Year-long paid residencies from UTSA and Texas A&M San Antonio. Grow your own partnerships with Indiana Wesleyan University and Teachworthy. Alternate certification program recruitment and teacher stipends. You can see here we have the logos of Eduforia, which is the platform that we gather the professional learning. We have UTSA, Temusa, Indiana Wesleyan University, Teachworthy. Those are the components that allow our teachers to gather their certification. Top web-centric AGP, Texas Teachers for Tomorrow, and I Teach are four of the teacher certification programs that we utilize. I'd like to thank you. This is a picture of Port SA. It's called the Core 4 extravaganza that was held at Port SA. We had over 300 middle schoolers attend this event. There's some of our middle schoolers there. So thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Next, I'd like to introduce, it's our next work session 5A, and I'd like to introduce Dr. Basuto to this program. Sir?
Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Hernandez, and Superintendent Hernandez, and esteemed board members and community members. Today's information around work session 5A, discussion to purchase the English version of Blue Bonnet Learning Math materials for grades K through 5 from grade lines. So we're just going to give you a little bit of information, background information around this particular item for your consideration. Topics for discussion we will cover is the high quality instructional materials, HQIM, where you've heard this term many times, and so we'll revisit this and what it means. Open educational resources, overview of the Blue Bonnet learning materials, product pricing, and of course the funding options that are now being made available through the state. Terms to know: instructional materials, materials used by the local education agency, i.e. us, the district, where teachers have access to teach the standards. High quality instructional materials are the approved instructional material review, approved what we call instructional material review and approval process that is viewed by the state. And then of course the Blue Bonnet Learning open education resource. So why the importance around high-quality instructional materials? What's so important about HQIM? Well, for one thing, during the ADA legislation, it was House Bill 1605 was passed, which addressed a high-quality curriculum. What you need to know about that is two things were really listed there. They created new criteria for instructional material review. So it's a way in which we were looking at the process of adopting materials in the state, which we call MROC. And the second thing is TEA, Texas Education Agency, was tasked with creating their own state-owned textbooks that are subject for approval by the State Board of Education. As you know, the problem of practice across the state of Texas, not just here in Edgewood, across the state of Texas, is that there's just not enough time. For us former teachers, we know that to be true. And spending hours developing curriculum is not the best practice. So how can we get teachers to really focus in on internalizing lessons versus creating lessons? And so here's a graphic where it shows that on average, teachers are just spending way too much time creating the materials versus planning to deliver the materials, which is a very different thing. Because of that, there wasn't a significant improvement in the access to the high-quality instructional materials. As stated earlier, HB 1605, the State Board of Education can now review the materials and accept or reject them to be high quality. One. The second piece is, which is very to incentivize schools, is now there's extra monies afforded to buy these materials and implement them. I'm now going to pass the rest of the presentation to Dr. Teresa Silva to give you more information around the materials themselves.
Good evening. So as Dr. Roosevelt mentioned, the State Board of Education now has taken control of that IMRA process. They held two critical meetings that you can see here, one in November, and they're information that also has been rolled out to us in the December update. So the State Board of Education did vote and decide on which materials were going to be placed on the shelf, right? So I want you to imagine that they reviewed 142 products. Out of the 142 products, they put 95 products on the shelf for reading and for math. Of those 95 products, school districts then are able to make then local decisions regarding the instructional materials that we are going to use moving forward in the 25-26 school year. So, just a friendly reminder that when we talk about bluebonnet learning, we are talking about the specifically state-owned, high-quality instructional materials. These are going to be available for the use of Texas schools in the 25-26 school year. And I do want to emphasize that bluebonnet learning is one of those high-quality materials that the state did put on the shelf. And it is the only open educational resource that we have available to us. These are now going to be what is considered state-owned adopted textbooks. This graphic here is illustrating for us the evolution of the instructional materials and the labels over time that lead up to bluebonnet learning. You can see that in the 24-25 school year, the Edgewood ISD entered into this process. And we were excited this year to launch Eureka Math in kinder through fourth grade instruction. And I do want to just take time to note that our kinder through fourth grade teachers have done a remarkable job alongside our principals, instructional coaches, and our coordinators with this transition and the implementation of high-quality instructional materials this year. I also want to point out that the red mark that you see here in the graphic is indicating a transition. Next year, we are going to see a transition that will indicate that Eureka Math will now be rebranded as Bluebonnet Learning. Now, this is important because this is good news for the Edgewood ISD. We do expect for the transition from Eureka Math to Bluebonnet to be smooth. Our teachers have been implementing with fidelity the practices of lesson internalization and have been delivering strong Eureka Math lessons in the classrooms that we get to see as we walk classrooms. And this has allowed for our teachers and our students to build their confidence as mathematicians. So we're excited about that transition. And we also continue to expect to prepare with implementation supports for the 25-26 school year as we think about and plan for next year's rollout. Next, you're going to see here on the timeline the overview of the new instructional materials review process that Dr. Barsugo spoke about just a few minutes ago. It's really important for us to note here on this timeline that you do see that the Spanish materials are lagging. This is important to know because as we come forward to you in an upcoming board meeting, we'll talk about the purchase of Spanish materials as a pilot program for next year. But in short, I do want for you to know that the Spanish materials are going to be available for Bluebonnet Learning, and we are going to continue to ensure that our students have access to quality materials. So what are our next steps? Here you can see in this illustration that the TEA, the Texas Education Agency, has released updated guidance for school districts. And so you can see now that we have the IMRA reports, we are currently reviewing the recommendations that were issued by the State Board of Education that was just released last week. You can also see that we have also began this work of the transition plan this year. It's already in motion for us, so we feel confident about Bluebonnet K through 5 now. We will also come back to you, board, in March, April with the TEACH certification survey. That is the typical timeline for us in the Edgewood ISD to roll back to you what we intend to be the instructional materials for next year. So you might be thinking, it's December, why are we talking about Bluebonnet Learning? The context for that is, it is important for us to know that because of this new change, we are expecting for the EMAT, or the Educational Materials and Textbook System, to open December 12th. We can already start to see some of this extra funding that Dr. Barsugo talked about. I'll break that down in a upcoming slide. It's important to know that the state is anticipating that about 70% of school districts are going to be making the transition to Bluebonnet learning. You can imagine that if 70% of school districts are going to be adopting this new material, that is going to be a heavy lift to get those materials out to school districts. So we want to make sure that we are submitting the requisition early so that we can ensure that our students and teachers have the materials they need in hand the first day of school. So we are already planning for that August 25 first day of school. So again, we'll come back to you sometime March, April with the TEAC certification survey. We are already beginning that learning around what we need to do to support our teachers with summer professional learning. And we will also work together with Mr. Williams' department as we prepare to receive those print materials and get them out to our schools and to our classrooms. So now let's talk about the funding opportunities that are available. There's a lot of information on this visual, so I'll break it down for you in just a minute. But I want for you to think about the materials that are available to us in 3 buckets. You see the instructional materials and technology allotment. You'll notice that in that particular column, the TEA references the 2 bienniums. It's important for you to note that although it might look like we're receiving more funding in the 24-25 school year, this is really back to pre-COVID levels. Also important for us to know that this funding source will carry over and that we are allowed to use this funding source for any instructional materials and technology that we deem necessary for our instructional program. The next bucket is the State Board approved instructional materials. This funding source is being released to us this school year. And so it is $40 per student if we choose to adopt the materials that went onto the shelf. Remember those 95 materials that went onto the shelf? We have to choose from that list in order for us to be able to access the $40. This is going to be annually refreshed in our budget, and it will carry over if we do not use it. And just that reminder that we have to use from that approved list that went on the shelf. There's another funding source that we'll talk about, and that's the State Board of Education approved OER. That is the Open Education Resource Instructional Materials. That's an additional $20 that we have access to every school year. It will be replenished every year. And this is a use it or lose it fund. So if we do not use it, it will go back to the general fund. TEA was very clear with us today on that, and so we did learn that today. So this particular fund can only be used for the cost of printing. Let's talk about that. So we are going to be asking for support with the purchasing of Bluebonnet Learning K through 5. What is important for us to know is that the purchase of Bluebonnet K through 5 now opens up each one of those buckets and the funding sources that we will have access to. So you can see here in this illustration that we have the instructional materials allotment that approximately $171 per student. We also have the $40 per student. And a little bit of information here. This year, we will have 2 deposits in the fund. So that will equal $80 per student. The why is because that fund was held in the bank, and now it's being released to us. So we've got an additional $80 per student. And then as I mentioned, bucket 3 is the $20. If we do choose to use Bluebonnet Learning, this will be accessible to us. So all 3 buckets open up. Again, this will refresh, but it's a use it or lose it fund, and it is intended to be stacked together with the other funding sources. So they'll take from the bucket 3, 2, and then bucket 1 to help fund our instructional resources. So here is our request and our direct ask for. We are coming to you, board, to request the purchase of Bluebonnet Learning. These are the instructional materials for K through 5 math. We are coming today with the English package. We will come back at a later time with Spanish. This does include the teacher program with the class manipulative kit that is required for us to purchase. We will also purchase the student program that is a 1-year consumable. And again, for an estimated cost that you can see there, Something that we should also note that the Texas Education Agency has worked together with publishers and with the other printing sources to make these affordable materials for school districts across the state of Texas.
Board, let me add a couple of things to this. I want to connect this for you. As the academic services department has done in the past, what you'll find is, depending on your approval in the January report meeting, part of the work we'll do is that the coordinators that you've seen here before presenting alongside Dr. Silva, Dr. Masuko, will continue this work through lesson internalization, through summer training. That'll also be part of the continued support teachers will get as they transition into group model learning. I'm glad to hear Dr. Silva bring up they will bring back the Spanish portion in terms of getting your approval for that purchase later in spring.
Yeah, that will come with the March, April TEAC certification. So when we bring the TEAC certification up, we will bring all of our instructional materials alongside.
And so again, for the TEAC certification is something you get every year. It's an ongoing thing. This is where you're signing off saying that the money that we are using is used to support the TEACs that we are required to teach in our classroom. Those are the TEACs are what teachers teach every day. So that's certifying that the monies that have been appropriated by the state are going to be used in support of TEACs. The other thing that we're not ready to discuss today because we don't have a lot of details, you may hear the program with Blue Line in the media. You might have already heard about it. So in the spring, I may bring a discussion to you with regards to information around Blue Line learning and what it represents, not necessarily on the mathematics side, but more on the ELA side. So real early, you may remember the word Blue Line, right? It's also our state flower. Yeah, state flower. Thank you, my first grade teacher. And so you may hear some things that need to be jogged in memory. Of course, we can always ask you to start with me directly. If there needs to be a conversation, we will bring it in probably March. Okay? Any questions about?
Yes, you don't.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
So just to connect more of the work of Dr. Silva, Dr. Rosenthal, I'll remind the board that last year too.
Sorry, I was using my teacher voice.
Part of this work too, we say Dr. Silva alluded to prior year funding sources. We very strategically set aside funds. We used ESSER monies to make sure that we were paying for licenses and other products for this year so that we could save that money from IMA. So that for the new adoptions, I wasn't anticipating Bloom on it, but thank you for that. For the new adoptions that are coming up for next year. So we were really strategic about saving those funds that we'll have available so we won't have to touch the general fund for other initiatives. So thank you for that. I just wanted to connect that as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I do want to just mention, thank you for mentioning that, Ms. Martinez, that in the past practice that we did have proclamations that came from the Texas Education Agency. Those proclamations have been sunsetted, so that means that we will no longer have proclamations. We have a new cycle through this IMRA process that allows for flexibility for school districts to not enter into 8-year contracts with publishers. We will be able to enter into contracts year by year so that we can continue to make the best decisions for our students as we continue to navigate the changes.
Any other questions for us? I think Dr. Mike is your Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Board, school leadership is bringing to you the item to purchase Timely, which is an AI program that will integrate with our SIS system Frontline to support us in scheduling our secondary students for the upcoming school year. We anticipate the amount being around $55,000. Timely should help us optimize staffing resources as well as enhance specialized service deliveries, and it will help us to maximize time effectiveness that it takes to work with scheduling all of our students. In the board update on Friday, I will also include a couple of research articles that are in support of timely, where other school districts have been able to utilize the resource to staff effectively and efficiently, and also be able to save funds.
Questions? This is directly related to schedule, right?
Yes, sir, master schedule.
Secondary.
For secondary schools specifically, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. That concludes the leadership presentation.
One more. Ms.
No,
Martinez.
that's leadership. Ms. Martinez is next up.
Yes.
Thank you.
There's nothing like finishing with finance.
Money.
All right, good evening, everybody. I know I stand between everyone and the door, so I'm gonna get right into business. We don't have a lot of new business, but I do want to circle back to finance updates, very specifically how we ended last year with our audit. The rest of the items that we have are recurring. The slides are in there for your review, and they will be in the Friday update, but I want to concentrate on how we landed this past year. So I'm going to go back to our non-negotiables. As part of the presentation tonight, I want to talk a little bit more about attendance and how that's impacting the finances. And I want to talk about the financial ratings, because the information and how we landed on our financial statements and the end of the year fund balance is directly impacting how we're rated by the state and now also by the GFOA. So as part of non-negotiable number 4, and I have these out of order specifically, I know that. So we're going to start with non-negotiable number 4 with the finances. So I need to talk about the audit. That is a lot of information. If you see this up on the board, this is how the board adopts the budget. We are required to adopt at the fund financial level. I condensed this, but we are required to adopt the general fund, child nutrition, that encompasses our entire general fund. We adopt debt service, but we include for information purposes the monies we're using from the ESSER 3 and some other governmental funds, because that includes our grants. So this past year, I want to concentrate on the general fund. We added $11.3 million to the general fund at the end of 23-24. If you look at the bottom, I wanted to highlight the why. We adopted a deficit budget. How is it that we landed with an $11 million surplus to our fund balance? Our grants ended as of September 30th. ESSER 2 ended June 30th, and ESSER 3 ended September 30th. So all allowable expenses that we could remove to these funds. We did some, we purchased some licenses for 2 years, we purchased textbooks, we tried to ensure that we took care of the campuses for 2 years, and we moved qualified expenses, I can't reiterate that enough, qualified expenses into ESSER 3 so that we wouldn't send funds back. So as a result, we were able to have $11.3 million. $5 million was a direct transfer though, of our workers' comp fund. So that this is not, we stayed budget neutral in the general fund, but we transferred in $5 million from our workers' compensation fund. That's a direct work, thank you to the risk management department. We had some old claims. I don't know if you remember that we were self-insured at one point in the district. We have settled most of those cases, and we've left sufficient monies to cover what is left. Dollars that we had held there in case we needed the monies, we're now able to transfer them to general funds and we can use those. They're now available for use. And we also had an HVAC project that we transferred into ESSER 2. We've not been able to complete those projects. Those projects look more like $12.5 million, and they would affect 4 different campuses. So those are things that we're going to bring back as part of the budget conversation starting in January. I just wanted to lay the foundation of how those monies are made up. So when we come and start prioritizing projects, this is some of the money that we're hoping to use from fund balance as we move forward. I'm going to stop right there because that's a lot of information. Rather than waiting until the end of the presentation, do we have questions about this? Okay, thank you. Now, I also want to report back here with all of our funds. When we look at our financial statements, we look at every single expense. I wanted to report out that
When we started, you'll probably recognize this slide. We talked a lot about redesign. We talked about return on investment. We were estimating that we were going to have about an $8.2 million savings from 2022 to 23 that we've been working through, because it has not been at one time. It has taken a couple of years because we knew ESSER was going to end. We were at $8.1 million. We literally take our C3 schedule and compare it 23 expenditures to 24. Over all the funds, not a general fund, but just over all the funds, we have reduced our expenses by about $8.1 million. And the strategy is to continue to provide services to our students. But it's been a lot of work. Thank you to the team and everybody around here, board, for all the support, because it is still a work in progress. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, and Mr. McElwain, DAP presentation, thank you guys very much. We've already talked about attendance. Non-negotiable number 2 is attendance. We were at about 89% as of 12/9. That is a little bit better than we were doing last year. I'm cautiously optimistic only because it is Christmas and we still have spring break, and we will have attendance challenges over the next few months. But we have stayed at about 0.3% better on a weekly basis than we were in prior years, so I'm optimistically hopeful that that's going to increase. As a reminder, about 1% better in attendance is about $750,000 for the district that the students can use, that we can use to support students. Enrollment is about 229 students better at this point in time than we were last year. And that's huge because we were anticipated, I'll remind everyone, to have declines of between 80 to 250 students. So that's huge. Just to translate very roughly, that's about $2.04 million of additional revenue that we're not. That doesn't get us out of a deficit, but it is a positive trajectory. So I wanted to share that again to lay the foundation for the work that we have ahead and the discussions we start having in January. So any questions about the financing piece, so I can wrap that up? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that several positions were eliminated.
Yes, ma'am.
So who's doing that work now? Or it's not done anymore, or what?
No, ma'am. We have the work is spread depending on where it is. Some departments only 3D. But every time that people are leaving, we're restructuring. By the time a person leaves, we kind of have an idea of where the work is going to be distributed. So sometimes we're caught by surprise, but for the most part, we have plans. The work is continuing. So it doesn't look the same for every department, Ms. Castillo, but the work, you've heard the principles of conversations, the work continues. We don't have much of a choice.
Okay.
So, do you have a program in mind or something specific that?
No, I was just wondering because I saw that there was several.
We spread the wealth now. We spread the wealth.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. One of the things, and this is recurring, but I'm going to try, the rest of the items actually are recurring, so I'm going to be brief. We have exhausted our extensions for our external auditors, so we will ask, the bids were due today at 3 p.m. So in January, even though I don't have a recommendation tonight, there's a committee that's reviewing the bids on Thursday. So we will have a recommendation. I anticipate that we will have that in the board update prior to the board meeting, but we are reviewing our auditing services. This item, Dr. Mackin's already discussed for timely. This is just the purchasing part. We are adopting another school district, in this case Richardson EISD, so that we don't have to close and spend $8,000 for doing the work that another district has already done. This is the purchasing portion of supporting timely. We are required to have 2 separate agenda items, so you will see it twice, but it is not, it is the same item. It's just the process versus the product. The rest of the items, as I mentioned, are recurring. I do want to let you know that if you have questions, these are donations. This is a transfer, actually. These are transfers that don't impact fund balance. These are just campuses and or departments moving monies where they need them, but we are required to come to the board. So if there are any questions that anybody has, please let me know. We also have donations from October that total about $24,000, and you can see the numerous organizations that donated and the campuses that received the funds.
Yes, sir.
Is it a true statement that donations are being provided to months behind? We have new trustees on.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, sir. Donations and our financial statements are normally about 2 months behind. We close the books, receipt, and then bring them to the board. Okay, agenda items 5G and 5H are for informational purposes. Those financial statements and the tax collection reports. These are brought or placed on the agenda. They're also a couple of months behind. We post them after we close the process, and because we do this so early, we're already talking about the January agenda. So we're usually a couple of months behind, but they are there for informational purposes. And for human resources, these are all closed session items. They are also recurring. With that, I conclude our presentation. Is there any questions? I feel like a Grinch because I had nothing for Christmas, Heather.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, guys, so a couple of last things before we close out. I'll turn it back to our board president. Just in the spirit of transparency, guys, a couple of things. The board, when you get your board update, and you probably have one of these in front of you, at the advice of some of the board officers, specifically Mr. Gomez attended at that time, we did color coordinate, Ms. Amelia color coordinated the agenda so you know what is a recurring item versus a new item. I'll remind you, board, I brought a recommendation to you at the beginning of the year that we would spend most of the time in workshop going over school data. This is why we have Principal Gantu here. We've had principals before. We'll have principals in the spring. We're only going to spend time in the workshop talking about items that are brand new. And then any items that are recurring for the majority of the board, you've seen these. These are recurring. They happen every year. Again, in the spirit of transparency, I have follow-up meetings after this meeting with the 2 trustees that are new. In fact, I'm meeting with both trustees this Friday morning for a couple of hours to review any follow-up questions they may have about tonight and or any other trainings that we're trying to bring before them. So in the spirit of transparency, I want to make sure and remind the group of that. I do want to thank all the different groups that presented this evening. Ms. Martinez, thank you for highlighting the fact that, board, we use other districts' work because she mentioned, I think it's an $8 savings. Well, $8,000 starts adding up because if you remember, we've used other districts' work. If they bring it to their board, it's been through board book. I mean, by board, it's been through different clearinghouses. So we're safe in terms of using their work. So we don't spend $8,000, or it could be a little less if varies. But it's still money that ends up in our pockets that we can use for other things, right? To help support students and classrooms. So with that said, unless there's anything else from my group, I don't think there is. I'm looking at all of you. We'll leave that there, and I'll turn it back over to our board president, Dr. J.
Okay. The time is now 6:48. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Was that Mr. Gomez motion? Is there a second? Ms. Castilla seconds. Is there any discussion? Okay, if we have no discussion, all those in favor raise your hand and say aye. 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 All those opposed say nay and raise your hand. Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.